Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. We're continuing today in the book of the Psalms and number 83. Oh, pardon me. All right. A song or psalm of Asaph. Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, Come, and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. The tabernacles of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, and Ammon, and Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have holpen the children of Lot, Selah. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera, as to Jabin, at the brook of Kison, which perished at Endor. They became as dung for the earth. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb, yea, all their princes as Zeba and as Zelmunna, who said, Let us take to ourselves the houses of God in possession. O my God, make them like a wheel, as the stubble before the wind, as the fire burneth a wood, and as a flame setteth the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, and make them afraid with thy storm. Fill their faces with shame, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. Let them be confounded and troubled forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish. That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the most high over all the earth. There's just a very few places in the Bible where they transliterate the name of God, even though it occurs all over the place. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry. So yeah, even though it's everywhere in the Bible, it's all over the place. In the Old Testament, it's the Tetragrammaton YHVH or YHWH, whatever. I get. I wish that all. I think it's pretty much. I've never seen anything outside of a very small group of people use that V and not a W. So, it's normally not transliterated, but in certain places it just seems like odd to say, whose name alone is the Lord. It's like, it's interesting to me that it's like they say, they got to seek his name. Did it say his name or his face? No, seek, that they may seek thy name, O Lord. That would be also Jehovah. Right? All those all capital Lord. That's always in the King James an indication of that the name of God is being invoked. So back in the beginning, a song or psalm of Asaph. Asaph. That's really bad. That's definitely not how it's pronounced. Song or psalm. So there's a differentiation, obviously, because all of them are marked off as psalms, but some are a song or psalm. And I don't know what that means. Maybe a song means you could sing this with or without music, because psalms always have music. Or actually, again, I'm not sure if they're always... in the word psalm leads you to think there'd always be music with it, since it's psallo in Greek, and it's in the Hebrew is similar. What is the Hebrew? It's not similar sounding or anything. Oh, we've read it before. That's right. I remember we went there. It's a piece of music, a song or poetry set to music. But there's some difference. Well, we're not going to belabor this. It's not that interesting. It's more interesting to me as a musician, actually. Just thinking about, well, how was that done? Keep not thou silence, O God. Hold not thy peace. Be not still. For lo, your enemies make a tumult. They that hate thee have lifted up the head. They've taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. It's interesting. This is the way it's put here. I'm sorry. It's Assyria is called Asher, and that's like what they'd be called it earlier, like in the time of David or Solomon. I believe, up to, well, I know by the time of Isaiah, it was always Syria, not Asher. But that's the Asher referred to there is Assyria. And so, even as far back as their exodus from Egypt, very obvious, that the destruction of Israel has been on the minds of many people who want to destroy them. That the name of Israel may no more in remembrance. I mean, Hitler had his final solution. And that's not a new idea. It's a terrible idea, but it's not a new one. Of course, I don't feel like... I don't know why I feel like I have to say that. Because some people... Still to this day, it amazes me that people will be Christian, as I was. Well, when I was a Christian in the Arnold Murray thing, and I don't know what to call it, a church. It's not a church, ministry. And I wasn't in his ministry. I was just being blessed by his ministry. If we've blessed you, bless us and help us keep coming to you. Anyways, so I was blessed by his ministry, but I received many doctrines, including the serpent seed doctrine, which regarded the Jews as the children of the devil. Now, Arnold Murray was very explicit, like according as like the mark put on Cain, and also the parable of the tares. Leave the tares alone. And that seemed wise as far as from that, like, why would you mess with something if God allowed it? If God says don't, we're not supposed to like mess with people anyways. I mean, there's no people on the earth that we're supposed to like root out and destroy. There's not, as far as not as Christians. The Israelites were called to that. Amalek, root out and destroy Amalek. That was done. And many nations have perished from the earth. Where's Ammon? Where's Moab? Where are they? Tell me where Edom is. It was, Russia. Tell me where Edom is. The name of Edom. I know where the name of Israel dwells. People try to say that those aren't really the Jews. No, those are really the Jews. There's been a lot of like intermarrying through the years, but they've been holding together as a family. I know that there's some entered in who are not Jews, of course. But I mean, overall, that's them. They haven't been destroyed yet. It's a fool's errand. All who take up that task are going to find themselves confounded. I mean, they will. When I look at this psalm, this is one of those psalms where they're calling down curses on their enemies. I look at it when I pray, when I think about people who would destroy me, I know that no one can touch me until God wants me touched. If there's someone, like if I'm doing God's work, right, and someone takes offense at it and wants to destroy me, as far as I'm concerned, they're taking a tremendous risk in trying to harm me, especially if God if that's not His ordained end for me. He was assassinated or whatever. I don't really take that seriously. Well, I don't take the threat seriously because I do take God seriously. I take trusting the Lord seriously because, you got to understand that no person is really safe in the world unless, You have to take extraordinary measures. But an average person, you can't stop a dedicated assassin. You can make it very difficult, but it wouldn't take someone long probably to observe my life and detect certain patterns. I mean, I don't have a really patterned life like some people, like they're always in a certain place at a certain time. I'm always in front of this computer in the morning during a stream. And there's a window here, and well, honestly, I can't imagine where someone would snipe me from here. But anyways, I'm saying, but there are plenty of other ways I'm vulnerable. Of course, we're all vulnerable, except there's an invisible hedge. There's an invisible hedge around me. In this, he talks about the Lord, a polished shaft in his quiver hath he hid me. It was one of the messianic passages from Isaiah. Thy hidden ones. Israel is hid not because they're what it means is they're hidden in the sense of God has hidden them like in the shadow of his hand hiding. Protected in that sense. Hedged about. Hidden from trouble. Hidden from the enemy. In some sense. Protected is what the I think the idea there would be. I wonder if they translated such in the... So I keep on snuffing without... It's not really... I'm not really congested. It's just... I'm just slightly congested. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Yeah, they put it against those you cherish in the NIV. And that's the idea of... I would prefer... Like I said, I don't like that as my translation, but I'm just using that to say, see, the scholars agree. That's what it means. Like cherished, hidden in the palm of your hand type of hiding. And I just knew that from experience. I was like, yeah, that's obviously what it means. Hidden ones. Because they're not like hidden in the sense of like that, I'm not hidden. I always, like God's people, we're to let our light so shine before men. We're not supposed to just hide ourselves away. We are not supposed to take our talents and hide them in the earth. That's not the kind of hiding. We are his talents hidden in the earth. We are his work hidden among others. But hidden in that sense, like I said, protected. And that's Israel also. They are protected. The nation, because God has plans for Israel. And though, even the most tremendous mechanized efforts of one of the most advanced nations the world has ever seen could not destroy them. Though, But I do think that the same thing that they feel the same about Christianity in this world today. They want to destroy, and again, in the Psalm, he equates their destruction with God. They are confederate against thee. They've consulted together. They agree completely. One consent. They are confederate against thee. They hate our God. They hate us because they hate our God. And I think that's certainly true of Christians in a lot of, some Christians go a long way to making God hated for their sake, as opposed to, because, a lot of Christians, yes, we do not all do a very good job. I've seen people oftentimes are very badly behaved. And if they weren't so badly behaved, I think it would be harder for people to recognize. And I think a lot of people do recognize that oftentimes it's those people that are the problem. It's it's like, but they will often say, "Oh, look at what religion does to people," or they'll say, and that goes the other way too. You see some crazy, ungodly person, you think, "Oh, the ungodliness is out of their minds." I don't know. There is a lot of craziness in the world just generally. And like where it winds up, I can't say precisely, but it's like, sometimes the enemy is within the church and just causing disrepute to come upon it from within by doing the devil's work inside the church, sowing discord, sowing whatchamacallit, causing doubt, conflict between church members and stuff like that. People who bring about backbiting and gossip and all this, tale bearing and stuff in the midst of the congregation. And then there's outside. There's people, but those enemies. Oftentimes, people are a little too tolerant of. But then you have enemies outside the church. And I don't mean, the little building. I mean just the general outside the family of belief, who hate us because of what we stand for. Because, for the most part, because of the righteous standards that we operate under, and we say all men should operate under. That it's like, there are the righteousness goes beyond just do no harm. Righteousness goes to do no wrong. It's not just that you do no harm. It's like there's some things that are wrong. I make my hair worse, but it feels better. And so, it doesn't have to obviously have harm. I've said this a long time ago. It's like, sin is not just pragmatism. Like, oh, don't do that because it'll hurt you. It's not just that. It's like, no, don't do that because that's wrong. And we're not going to have that in God's kingdom. I mean, it's like, it's not, oh, Jesus. All right, no, sorry. It's just driving me nuts. Whatever. When I look at how stupid it looks, it distracts me from saying intelligent things. It's like, how you can't say anything intelligent when your head looks like that. I'm just kidding. Of course you can. They have said that, okay. They consulted together, okay. The Confederate against thee. And that's why I say it is true of us as Christians also, because though we're not a nation per se, I mean, we are a holy nation, right? We are a nation under a king, and therefore, and we are one people ultimately in Christ, made one in the Spirit, in a truer sense than any nation on earth. And so that nation also is despised because of the Lord, because especially here in the West, where they have abandoned the faith. And there's nothing, no one probably hates the faith more than one who has abandoned it in favor of debauchery. And that is, if you look at our society, much like Sodom and Gomorrah, has descended into debauchery and excess. Pride, fullness of bread, abundance of idleness, all the abominations. I mean, we're filled up with all that stuff. And as that stuff ferments, it'll get worse. Like I said, I still don't think things, as far as like, the world has been a much worse place in the past as far as general misery. It's still true. But we are headed down a dark path with the, not we, they are headed down a dark path. We're headed on a path of light that leads to everlasting life. It's like, and even in this world, I count, well, if this isn't the end of the world, I'm going to count on defeating them, actually. Not in surrendering. Because the only one who I know the saints will be defeated by Satan at the end, but I don't think they're just defeated by Satan all along the way, because that won't work. They're not going to be exterminated by Satan. The faithful will remain to the end. So now the Confederate against Israel were the nations that were round about him. Edom, that is the descendants of Esau, the brother of Jacob. It's a very close, relation there as far as the brothers at one time. But, you think about generations down. The fact that there were two brothers. And Ishmaelites also, that's their uncle. Half uncle, but, Isaac's brother. Isaac's half-brother Ishmael. And also they mention Midian down below. But that's another one of Isaac's half-brothers. Isaac, the son of Abraham. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Remember, Jacob and Israel are the same, just in case I forget. Sometimes I just assume the who's listening will just know. I do that teaching on 3 levels things where it's like for beginners and for middles and for I don't know. The thing is, everyone's always hearing on their own frequency, so to speak, and we can all have insights that may be not the same insight as somebody else, but is true. That's the inspiration of the Spirit. The tabernacles of Edom, the Ishmaelites, Moab, and Moab is the Moab and Ammon, which is coming up. And those are the 2 sons of Lot. That's why it says they've helped the children of Lot in verse 9 or 8. Sorry. Edom and Ammon. Now Amalek was Amalek, as far as I know. I don't remember what their descent. I mean, you can look into that stuff, but Amalek was one that harassed the children of Israel as they were wandering in the wilderness, I believe, that attacked them. He was the one, or that was the nation, and also that was a nation that Saul had to destroy the remnant of, and I believe that was Amalek. But anyways, it was a nation of particularly an odious culture. Some cultures are not the same. Not all cultures are equal. When the first explorers came to this part of the world, they found some cultures that were cannibalistic down in the Caribbean. There were Caribs, in fact. And other cultures that were doing lots of human sacrifice and stuff. And it's like, is it bad that those cultures... Do I regret the passing of those cultures? No. I don't. Sorry. I mean, I don't know. Somewhere in my ancient past, my ancestors were pagans who worshipped nature and whatever. And you know what? I don't want to go back. I don't feel sorry for that loss. That's a bunch of rejected lies. You know what I mean? There is a testimony of nature, but nature is not the God. Nature itself is not. And not the beast have all the kind of debauched activity. But they just do that for its own sake now. In just defiance of the Christian norms that had ruled society for the last few centuries. They've cast that aside and said, let us give ourselves over to the pleasures of falsehood, to the lies of saying we'll give ourselves over to that, and then we'll be happy, we can be free. Like we'll be free of this chain that demanded righteousness. But that also brings peace, and that also fosters so many other good things. People that with a lot of these nations, and Edom, and it was, because he was always like, hey, you will not be like the nations round about you. He put limits on what they ate. They only ate certain kinds of animals. And then animals in a certain way, only off the certain part. They were very particular. They wore certain kind of clothes. And they were a peculiar nation. And that peculiarity made people kind of hate them because they had, oh, this is our God. We were stubbornly clinging to our God. What about our gods? The Ammonites worship the gods of the Moabites, and the Edomites worship the gods of the Philistines, and the Philistines worship the gods of Gebal, and the Gebalites worship the gods of the Hagarenes, and Amalek loves the gods of Edom and Moab and Ammon. It doesn't have to, because the covenant is with the future, not with any particular group of people at any particular time. That's why when they're wandering in the wilderness, it didn't like God didn't consider it failure on his part. If people suffer for their sins, or just suffer, and they don't obtain the promise themselves, it's still waiting, because the promise is, like I said, the covenant is sort of with the future. It's not just with any particular group of men. Like, though I'm a Christian, it's like God's promises are bigger than me. It's like, so I don't necessarily get to be part of the big end times thing or whatever. I don't necessarily get to abide and remain till the coming of the Lord, and so that I'm transformed on the moment of his return. I don't necessarily get to participate in everything I read about. Just like they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years and they died, and their children inherited it. Sometimes that's the way it goes. So all the enemies joined together. The Hagarenes, I don't even feel like reading. And weakened, not so much anymore. And all the enemies of Israel began looking at this rich and blessed kingdom that was in, poor and poorer shape to defend itself. And they looked and they thought, he's the Hagar. Yeah, that's something else. That's Jaziz the Hagarite in Chronicles. Oh, wait a second. Sorry, that wasn't up there. See that? All right, Paul, come on. This is what I was looking at the uses on the right here. There's Midbar, the son of Hagri. And then here's 1 Chronicles 5, and that's all the uses of Hagarites. Talks about war with the Hagarites in 1 Chronicles. 1 Chronicles, I'm curious what Hagarites, they were a nation east of Jordan. And go back. All right. Asher, we already talked about. Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, Philistines. Philistines should be familiar with from the stories of David. They were coastal, seafaring people, possibly of Phoenician origin. Do unto them as unto the Midianites, as to Sisera. Well, Sisera, I believe, was the captain of the Midianites. He's referring to incidences in Judges now. The Midianites also, like I mentioned before, one of the sons of Abraham by Keturah. But the Midianites and the Ishmaelites traditionally were not always, sometimes they had positive, it was like, it depended, like the brothers of Joseph sold him to some Ishmaelites, or was it Midianites? I think it was both or something. I bet there's some confusion about that. But anyways, it was one or the other or both or something like that. They sold him into Egypt that way. But obviously they were, trading. But later on there was actual hostility between the nations. Sisera, in particular, was the one who had his head staked to the floor of a tent by was it Jael? She brought him in and gave him some milk and he was fleeing the battle, and she smote his head to the floor with a spike, with a tent stake or something like that. Yeah. To Jabin, I forget what Jabin did. If that was one of his lieutenants, if it was Sisera, and it was still a king. This is big during the time when they'd entered the land, but there were still Canaanites in the land, and among them Jabin. Oh, and the captain of his host was Sisera. Okay, so what did they do to Jabin? Because I remember Sisera allotted down off his chariot, he ran away. This is when Deborah led the nation with Deborah and Barak. She had to go as moral support. He was the general. She was the spiritual leader. Because the men had because they basically, this is the one where they, I believe, he had 900 chariots of iron. Okay. Yeah, Deborah judged Israel at that time. All right. And then Jael, in verse 18. Jael went out to meet Sisera. Turn in, my lord. Turn in, fear not. He came into her tent. She covered with a mantle. He said, give me a little water to drink. I'm thirsty. She opened a bottle of milk. Gave him the drink. She covered him. Let him rest. It says, if anyone says, is there a man there? He will say no. And Jael Haber's wife took a nail of the tent and took a hammer in her hand and went softly to him and smote the nail into his temples and fastened it to the ground. For he was fast asleep and weary. And so he died. Okay, so Jabin was subdued, head staked, nailed to the floor. There's been some art on that one. I remember that. I remember a painting of that. Okay. Yeah, if that painting would end up on my introductory card if we ever did judges, which I think at some point I would do. Which perished at Endor, they became dung for the earth. That's the battle that was described. You can read all about Judges 4. Make their nobles like Oreb and like Zeb. Now that's a different. Those were two other. Oreb and Zeb were the kings of Bashan. No. That's Og. Og, king of Bashan. Because there were a lot of petty kings and stuff. All right, Oreb. At the rock. Oh, I better put Zeb in too, so I don't have to deal with 21 results. So I go with Oreb and Oreb. All right, I'll just believe it's there. Oreb and Zeb. Is this Judges 7, 8? So they were the next incident. Judges 7:25. Oh, that was during Gideon. So that was the one who Gideon faced off against, Oreb and Zeb. Or Gideon sent messengers throughout all Mount Ephraim, saying, come down against the Midianites, and take before them the waters into Beth-barah and Jordan. Then all the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and took the waters unto, They took the two princes of the Midianites, Oreb and Zeb. They slew Oreb upon the rock Oreb, and Zeb they slew at the winepress of Zeb, and pursued Midian, and brought the heads of Oreb and Zeb to Gideon on the other side of Jordan. That's what happened to Oreb and Zeb. Make my enemies like Oreb and Zeb, is what the psalmist is saying. Separate them from their heads. Zebah and Zelmunna. I don't recognize those ones at all, to tell you the truth. Zebah and Zelmunna. Of course, there could be alternative spellings. So instead of actually doing that, it occurs to me that maybe my notes in my Bible will be more productive in this case. So we'll take a look at the Psalm 83 there. The funny thing is, this, like I said, I'm sorry if sometimes it's a little slow, but this is the study. You know what I mean? They said, why don't you prepare? It's like, I'm doing it right now. Okay. Zebah and Zelmunna. Well, he said, now it talks about, still looks the same thing with Gideon. Oh, there were another. He said to the men of Succoth, give, I pray you, loaves of bread unto the people that follow me, for they be faint, and I am pursuing after Zebah and Zelmunna, kings of Midian. Maybe they were the successors to Oreb and Zeb. And the princes of Succoth said, are the hands of Zebah and Zelmunna now in thy hand, that we should give bread unto thine army? I mean, are you friend? Like, so they take the side of the other ones. And Gideon said, therefore, when the Lord hath delivered Zebah and Zelmunna into my hand, then I will tear your flesh with the thorns of the wilderness and with briars. Because these were the men of Succoth. These, I think, should have been. This is. Okay, whatever. And then they end up where? In verse 24, I thought it said. 21. Zebah and Zelmunna said, rise up and fall upon us, for as the man is, so is his strength. And Gideon arose and slew and took away the armor. Yeah, I see it. Gideon tells his firstborn to kill them. There was something. It really. I'm sorry, I forgot about this whole incident. They'd done something back here. The young man inquired of him, described to the princess. And he took the elders of the city and the thorns of the wilderness and with them he taught them as that. That's why I went to church during the pandemic, because I was like, well, I better go to church. Because now's the time. They won't let me. Anyways. So while it's not exactly, the same, because I don't know, like the houses of God in Asaph's reckoning, in Asaph's thought process, what does he look at as the houses of God in possession? There is a place called Bethel, the house of God, but here it's houses. I wonder what the NIV, what do they say? Because they always have something to say. They say pasture lands of God. That makes me want to check that word. Whenever they do stuff, I'm like, really? Wow. How'd they get that so wrong? Houses is just, Bethim or something like that. Bethel is house of God. You add the I am for the plural in Hebrew, something like that. So Bethim. Bethemel or El Bethim, whatever, I don't know. Houses of God, houses. Oh, let us take to ourselves the houses, all one word. And so it's not Bethel. Okay, that's helpful. Nah. Habitation, house, pasture, pleasant place. So, yeah, it's not explicitly houses of God. But like I said, when you get in that translation, so that's not what that was talking about. There's another good example of it's still true. They want to take the houses of God in possession. They want to control what the religious say. They want to tell us, look, you've got to marry these two guys. You got to marry these two ladies. You have to do that. That's what they want. They want to control what's said in church. They want to control what people in church think. I know this is because they want to control what everyone thinks. So it's the pleasant places. So it's more like I said, the pleasant places of God were the places that God gave Israel to dwell. My instinct as far as how is Asaph looking at this is like I said, these are the places God gave Israel to dwell in. That's what the houses of God refers to here. Just like the pleasant places of God, the pastures of God. I do think pastures here is not literal. It's more like, we go to greener pastures, what you say? And that is a metaphor for, God's feeding and provision. Like it said in the previous psalm, or 2 psalms ago, 81, open your mouth and I will fill it. That's what God, I will lead you. What does he do? He leads me to green pastures. He makes me dwell by the still waters. What were his parting words to Peter? Feed my sheep. Feed my sheep. Or feed my lambs, feed my lambs, feed my sheep. Or feed my lambs, feed my sheep. We're going to do John soon, so I'll get a refresher on how many times he said lamb and how many times he said sheep. But that's, houses of God too. So, so even everything I said about the houses of God, that being the church, still saying the pastures of God, they want to take all they want to control what you feed on. They want to be the ones to control everything. They want to take possession of what God has given you. And of course, there's also just natural covetousness of the good things. So it's symbolic of the pastures, not just spiritual pastures. I mean, just literally greener pastures. It's just the good life. It's a metaphor for the good life that God gives them. I think. They want to take away that good life that God has given and take it for themselves. People see you living a good life, they become envious. They want to steal what you have. And they don't understand that, stealing what you have does not give them the happiness or the satisfaction you have. If someone stole my music, I don't mean downloading it, but somehow took credit for it, right? That's truly stealing in my mind. It's you can't steal my music. I give it away for free. So, and, at least for download, if they want to use it on their platforms, they pay me ad revenue. By the way, I had the best year ever in music this year. I made, after getting canceled from CD Baby and going berserk writing music and whatever, for whatever reason in the Bible, I'm not sure what accounts for it precisely, but compared to what I would get in a year previously from CD Baby, without getting into actual numbers, which are very small. Let me put it, what I used to get was in 2 digits, and now what I got this year was 12 times that. More like 13 times that. Not by no means a fortune. We're talking 3 digits here. But I've never gotten that much from my music royalties and all that stuff. And so I thought I was getting a worse deal from Amuse. Apparently they're doing something right. Or maybe I've been doing something different. I do have a lot more views and stuff. And a lot more monetized content out there. Oh my God, make them as a wheel and as the stubble before the wind. A wheel, often, round thing. It is kind of an odd thing to say, a wheel, because I don't think they had a different word for when you would just want to describe something round. Everything that was round was a wheel. You know what I mean? And so you wouldn't normally see a wheel blowing in the wind, but you think of a tumbleweed or a stubble. Because make them like a wheel isn't an obvious curse. Make him like a wheel and let him roll. It is more, what I'm saying is it's meant to be more severe than it sounds. Make them like a wheel does not sound like a severe thing, right? But drive them like stubble before the wind. Now you get the picture. Well, make them like a wheel is supposed to be on par with that. You know what I mean? Like stubble before the wind, like a wheel before the whirlwind, as it says in Isaiah, which also makes it quite clear, when it says a wheel before the whirlwind, okay, that makes it clear that wheel is in trouble, or it's going to be going, So make them go away, like round things in the wind, like stubble in the wind. Make them blow away, O God. As fire burneth a wood, and as the flame setteth the mountains on fire. Flames don't set mountains on fire. Yes, they do. They burn all the trees on the top of the mountains. Yes. So the mountains are on fire when the trees on the mountains are burning. Yes. Just think a little harder and it works out. So, a wood like as a woods, I believe. Fire burneth a wood means a stand of trees. As opposed to a piece of wood. It's not as fire burns a stick. It's as fire burns the woods down, as a flame sets the mountains on fire. So persecute them with thy tempest, make them afraid with thy storm. Again, we don't have to call curses down on our enemies. Our enemies are cursed. This is a true thing. It's not, but as Christians, we ought not. Jesus called us to bless and not curse. We don't have to curse, because they by touching us, by coming against them, they're cursing themselves. In all likelihood, there's nothing good in store for them. So you should pray for them. If by any means that there is something good in store for them, that they would be turned from an enemy into an ally, and then there's nothing sweeter. So we don't have to be, we have liberty to free ourselves from this mindset. We don't have to be angry with the enemy. We don't have to, I mean, we can be angry, but what I'm saying is we don't have to be, we don't have to worry about the vengeance that will be taken on the enemy. And it's not wrong to feel the way the psalmist feels. Like I said, though, it's not, the Lord Jesus has made it clear that we should not do such things. We should not pray this way. So do not. Though I'll read it and study it and say, this is the truth. That's what's going to happen to the enemies. These are the curses that are put upon them. They will be persecuted by God. God himself will levy his toll on them. Their faces will be filled with shame. But look, even here he says that they may seek thy name. I'm saying, because the psalmist knows that Israel is not supposed to be special just for its own sake. That from the beginning the promise was to Abraham that in thee shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. In Israel, when they were true to their mission, they understood this, that they were supposed to be a blessing to the nations, that their knowledge of God and the revelation he had given to them was precious and was their charge to carry it into the world and to preserve it and to be a special nation, to be an example to all the nations of the world. But they failed at that. So he sent his son. And he created out of the nation he had chosen and all the nations he hasn't chosen, he created out of those one new man in Christ. As it said, in the metaphor. One new man out of the two. And that one new man shall inherit with Christ. And that one new man is the church. So persecute them with the tempest, make them fair. Okay. The Lord has many ways of tempest. Could be a tempest of whatever, tempest of trouble. There's all kinds of tempests, real and imagined, that descend on people, metaphorical and quite literal. Fill their faces with shame and may seek their name, because ultimately that would be preferable. I would prefer that my enemies would see the light. I prefer my enemies could become my friends. I prefer that the enemy would seek the name of God, less because of all the harm they can do to us by not doing so, and the constant, the constant thorn in the side that they are. Let them be confounded in trouble forever. Yea, let them be put to shame and perish. Yeah, if they repent not, if they continue in their wicked ways, yes, they will be confounded in trouble. Let them. That's what will happen to them. That's why I do. I tell when I say things, when I say things that are judgmental to someone, like in a way I would say such things is like, you're on the path to hell. The thing you're doing, the thing you keep doing those things. That perhaps that they could have shame now and turn from their sins, be ashamed, rather than to live proudly and shamelessly sinning and in debauchery and evil and slovenliness and excess, and then show up on the day of judgment and then finally get your wake up call. Then too late. You perish. That's the ultimate end. That they may perish. That men may know that thou, whose name alone is Jehovah, art the most high over all the earth. Ultimately, men must suffer the penalty that they are due, because God must bring about justice. He will revenge every evil that has been committed on the earth. And they will see it, and they will declare it, and they will accept it, and they will weep and grind their teeth. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess. All they of them will know who's the most high over all the earth. That day will come. And the sooner we get ourselves aligned properly with God, the better. That's our focus. We got to align ourselves with the Lord. You know, I may not be perfect, but I'm going to be mindful of that fact that I need to be aligned with the Lord, and where I, you know, such things as, you know, what was the script? I'm thinking of in the churches where it says, and what you have already, the things you have already, the victories you've already accomplished, the things, you know, what you have in possession now that God has given you, the green pastures, all the things that He's blessed you with. And I mean in the spirit, not just, I don't mean your like material goods. I mean the spiritual side of this. What you have, hold fast till I come. That's what the Lord says. That which you have already, hold fast till I come. Because they had some very little left. I forgot what church that was, and I've memorized that. I'd have to sing the whole. My problem is I'd have to go back to a certain point and sing through each one to remember precisely which name is associated with that. And truth be told, I haven't done a lot of work on Revelation recently. It's been kind of busy. Mostly what I need to do is re-sing it. But that which ye have already, hold fast till I come. That's the verse I'm thinking of. That was fairly far into I thought. All right, well, let's be chapter 2. Oh, was that what you? Oh, wait. Satan dwelleth. Oh, whatever. Well, there it is. I had the whole verse. It's Revelations 2:25. But that which you have already, hold fast till I come. You know, the thing we may, you know, many, like in Thyatira, which is really corrupted as a church, as many as have not this doctrine, which have not known the depths of Satan as they speak, I put on you none other burden, but that which you have already, hold fast till I come. You know, if you stay out of the worst sins, you know what I mean? You don't go running after Jezebel and all that, you know, and harlotry away from the Lord. You stay focused on God and the right way. You know, you don't have to have everything right, but you have to have some core principles right. You know, you got to have the Lord Jesus. And you definitely got to get the cross of Christ right. I mean, because that's what saves you. You know, that's not hard. So anyways, thanks for joining me in this study. I look forward to being back again tomorrow. Until then. I have said you are Elohim, all of you are children of the Most High. Hold on. And of course, this obviously belongs here. Now, it getteth. Remember last time Bullinger said that was on the wine press, and so that makes a lot of sense. this psalm and the wine press, you bet. Play this one on the wine press, or whatever. I'm not sure if that's right. We'll check that. You know, I'll set this off. Maybe next time we're done though. All right, going back to the music. We're gonna just pick it up right there.